Hello, friends. It is our second SOI sealed practice. This is Jeremy Schofield from the A team. Thank you very much for watching the first one. Big shout outs to people who replied. I heard from Doug Potter. I heard from Patrick Lasky, who came up with like a full page write up on all the things I was doing wrong, which was absolutely fantastic. Some really key points that I got out of it. I got some information through Facebook from a few people. Just all kinds of tips and things to look at. We saw how I don't do a very good job of assessing my cards on Magic Online. Not using the tools that I have to kind of minimize my time. I felt in the last build that my time wasn't necessarily lost because I was doing things inefficiently. I felt that it was because I had no direction and that I had no idea what I was really doing in the format. But even in that case, even if I am presented with a difficult puzzle, being able to solve that puzzle without my hands tied by not using the program to its full extent are things that are going to really hurt me. I really enjoyed in Patrick Lasky, he talked about using my filters to help me figure out how many creatures I have in a color, how many spells I have in a color, what kind of removal I have, and all of those kinds of pieces. I've had a whole bunch of people come back to me and say, hey man, build the aggro deck. The aggro decks are exactly where it's at. And it's funny because in the matches that I did play, you'll see on the next screen, I ended up going 2-3 with that deck. The games I was winning is when I just aggro curved out. The games that I stalled out, much like a lot of the feedback that everybody had is that my deck was unable to beat just big, stupid creatures. And I kind of was putting myself right in this like mid-range thing where it's like I wanted to be a bigger deck or a mid-range deck, and I had some aggro creatures and I just kind of jammed everything together and didn't do it right. So this is where we're going to go, and we're going to try and take some of the information, some of the feedback that you guys gave me, and I'm going to run through another league, another deck build. We're going to put our 20-minute clock up again, and we're going to try and jam it all out and see where we get with this. See if we've learned a few things, if we feel a little bit more comfortable. I'm starting to recognize some of the format a little bit better. I'm starting to understand some of the archetypes a little bit better. I understand that sealed is definitely not draft, but I am seeing where things can be really abusive. Like I've seen some enchantments and things that are being used against me. So even getting more reps in, I'm starting to recognize things a little bit more. And I think that's where I've been challenged a lot in this format, is that I usually am able to pick up on the archetypes really quickly. And for whatever reason, this one just hasn't stuck. Like, I don't know if I got something going on with my brain. If whatever the case may be, I stopped drinking pop. Maybe I needed that like big chunk of caffeine to focus a little bit better or something in the past. But I've just got to figure out how I'm going to, break through this. So I really liked the information that I got. I really liked some of the questions. Like it was very interesting. I'm going to keep going back to Patrick's feedback because again, he did like a freaking essay on it. Some of his points that he's got, I think, are very valid. The failure to decide if I'm aggro or if I'm control. And again, it's I understand where he's coming from with that, and I think that there's just an even more basic step back of like I don't understand what cards are what in this format. So I'm starting to pick that up a little bit more. I'm really happy to kind of see what I can do with it. I like some of the specifics, like Delirium being a very difficult thing. I understand, like, from playing now, like, my Delirium enablers, just how bad they are. Like, I had the enchantments. The enchantments actually make it really easy, but for whatever reason, like, I was cutting them here. I had an Odric, but I wouldn't play the enchantment that gave me flyers, although Odric with flying was, like, one of my ways that I was winning games. Just, like, silly things like that. I had one of the guys, Doug Potter, he said, like, when you built your deck the very first time, when you first put it together, it's like you built the deck. And then you decided, hey, I need red cards for some stupid reason. So I started cutting good cards to put red cards in, and that was just a really bad idea. There was also talk about, like, I was so focused on Delirium that I wasn't really paying attention to, like, my spirits and stuff like that. Am I playing enough spirits? The equipment thing, I know I didn't really mention it, but I only had one equipment in the deck, and I had a lot of cards that cared about equipment, and I would really love to have been able to do that. But I got myself too attached to the uncommon that, becomes a fiend hunter or whatever like that if you've got equipment. So stuff I have to get away from. The mana base was stone garbage, but that was also I think part of my self-imposed 20-minute time limit, we weren't building mana bases until I think there was like 45 seconds left. Like, I just threw whatever I could together and said, this is mana, fuck it. So again, that's going to be, using the tools ahead of me to help myself out. So I don't want to go too much into this because I know people actually want to watch something and they want to be a little bit entertained with their time. So again, I really appreciate it. Again, this thing up here that says 18 Jeremy, not a real thing. Still not a real thing. Don't know how to use YouTube. Nobody did give me feedback on that. So if you do know how to use YouTube, please let me know. The J Schofield thing, that's actually a thing, and I didn't spell it wrong. And look, didn't change anything, so practice is still spelled right. Awesome. Again, this is my preview screen. This is you, preview screen, you. I got to kind of change things around because this is kind of getting a little ridiculous. So let's keep the focus on you. We're going to get our timer up. We're going to jump into our league, build. Let's see, press the league button. Oh, fuck. Again, we shouldn't swear. We don't have tickets or play points or any of that other BS because I think I joined a modern league because modern is fun. So I'm going to pause the video and I will come back with us in the getting ready to jump into the league thing. All right, folks, we are back. We're ready to join the league. We got our timer set. We are going to go in 3, 2, 1, join the league, hit start on the timer, and bang. Oh, we got a Nahiri. Life is good. Hopefully that means something, but I don't know if it does. I see a Tamir's journal. Again, we're going to do our sort by rarity thing just to see where we're at. Let's see. Tireless Tracker is a good card. Journal doesn't feel like a great card, but it could be if I'm some sort of crazy control deck. I had a Soul Swallower kind of go off on me. 3/3 is not 4 toughness. 4 toughness is a big thing I'm starting to realize. The Bandit could be really cool. And what else do we got here? We got a Flamebait Angel. So Game Trail, like, I don't know, maybe we're looking at like a weird green-red deck. I see a Death Watch Recruiter. Like, the uncommons are the big thing. I remember someone mentioning that specifically. Uncommons are a very, very big thing. So let's do sort by color because we're going to do the sort by color thing. And you know what? Let's try out some of these different things that we've seen here. So, type. If I do creature, this shows me creatures. So we got lots of creatures in white. We've got lots of creatures in green. What do we got for creatures here? This little Forge Master, decent 2-drop. I've seen this thing kind of get out of control. Good werewolf, another wolf. Hound, this hound guy's pretty cool. Arsonist. Like, I'm seeing some good werewolves and stuff like that. The Scavenger, again, if I'm in some sort of delirium plan, might be the way to go, but the card isn't really that strong. Some strong wolves. These byway couriers, I put a lot more value in them than I really should have last time. Again, it's a 3/2, which means it dies to pretty much everything. And I don't know if that really matters. The Investigate might not necessarily be worth it. And 3 power trades with a lot, but 3 power just isn't enough. Tireless Tracker, good card. Soul Swallower can be a good card, but again, it depends on the Delirium stuff. And if I'm looking at Delirium stuff, I need to focus more on like the Wicker Witch type things and maybe these Harvest Hands. Well, Harvest Hand doesn't do anything for Delirium, but the Thriving Gargoyle, this guy's pretty decent. Let's see, in black, Skeleton's a good grindy card. This Bloodsworn is aggressive. I like these rats. Rats are kind of a pain in the butt. They can attack. So really interesting Sculpt cards there, but I don't know if I can win a fight with any of them. Obviously, these two guys are pretty beats. This Morkrod Necropod, I was playing in a draft. I know that that's not sealed, but this card was actually surprising. I thought at like 6 mana and a 7/7 that I had to sacrifice things, this card would be like just garbage. But again, this is a format full of very small creatures, so anything that has more than 3 toughness seems to be an actual beat stick. And when it's this big, like, it can actually 7 times 2 for the menace is, we're above that 3 threshold. So we might have to force like some sort of weird triple block or something really, really interesting in order to have this thing actually die. So that's pretty cool. 3/5, stops things. 1/5 stops things. Enters the battlefield, Investigate, 4 mana, 2/4. Seems perfectly good in kind of a more clunky, grindy control deck type thing. Stitch Mangler seems like a great little tempo play. Scribe. I've seen people playing this thing. I just, again, I guess this is more in our grindy style decks. I think you have to have a lot of cards to kind of make that whole thing work. 2/1 Skulk Guy could be cool, but I don't know. Reaper, this thing's good. These emissaries seem completely fine. The chaplain, I really like this chaplain. He's a 3/1, but like the fact that I get to put the spirits into play has just been a very, very big deal in the games I've played against it. The Ox is good. The Geist spirit gains me life. The evasion's really a big deal. Companion could be good if you got a lot of little tricks. Like, I'm actually, my guts wanted to tell me, like, hey, look, you got this red-green thing, you got all these rares, woo, stay over here. But, like, look at these white cards. Like, these white cards are all... I'm not upset with really any of these creatures. Like, I know that, like, this is a 3/1, but it's a 3/1 for 2 mana. Like, that can be enough to get yourself ahead on the curve and get some beats in. And if I've got some other stuff to play around with this, like, this is a happy little curve for me where I can get some early damage in and then just take to the skies, right? And if I combine this with something like my green, where I've got a little bit of smaller guys and some more humans and stuff like that, maybe I've got a bit of a deck going on there, or we'll see what the spells look like. So for creatures, again, my blue-black obviously are going to be more my grindy control stuff. We know that. We don't have a ton of delirium-based stuff here. Like, as much as this is a delirium card, it's a 5-mana 3/3 flyer. That might just be enough, If the delirium goes off, it becomes a very, very difficult card to deal with. So I do have, like, this really kind of interesting curve on my white stuff. I've got, like, this smaller red deck with, like, a bomb flyer on it. And, just a really decent werewolf guy who becomes a real problem. So I really like where my red's at. And then in my green, if I start cutting out a couple of these things, Groundskeeper, like, it could be good. Again, that's more of a delirium style deck. Again, depending on what my spells look like, that could be even better. This like turns into a thing like if I've got some sort of weird green-blue build with some like those enchantment cards that can get a little out of control. But I've got some, decent stuff. And I've got a Dustwatch Recruiter, which is a mythic uncommon, right? So this card's just a beat stick. So very, very interesting on the creature front. So let's get out of that and let's do the instant sorceries and enchantment. We also know that we've got like a red-white planeswalker, right? So let's maybe bring him up and just like some generic artifacts and see if we have anything else that's in here we're seeing. So on white, tap some creatures, could be good. Angelic Purge is a decent enough trick. Survive the Night, I think I had it better than, or ranked a little bit higher than I wanted in my draft. Card's still decent, but I don't think it's very exciting. And Silver Strike, actually at 4 mana, I wanted to be casting creatures at 4 mana. I want to be doing all these other things at 4 mana, so I don't know how excited I am about this. Let's see, in blue, Just the Wind seems decent. Ongoing Investigation, so there we go. That's like one of these, kind of funky cards that you start bashing people and getting to investigate and doing all kinds of stuff. Like, that seems pretty good. Vessel's boring. Deny Existence is kind of boring. It's a card, but not super good. Trail of Evidence, I don't think we have a deck for that. Sleep Paralysis, it's removal, and just kind of a weird play. 5 mana, like the Gone Missing. I know, like this effect is a good effect, but I don't think it's super exciting. Let's see, in black, Grotesque Mutation. This is actually, what I'm noticing is actually a really good card in this format. If we're going to be really aggressive and need to trade up, like this is the thing that gets you past those 4 toughness guys, and it can also mess up the combat math. This card's boring. This card is pretty decent. The Madness to put the zombies into play, it's always going to be good. Biting Rain, again, this doesn't feel like it's the strongest card in this format. I haven't seen a lot of... Like, the 2 toughness decks you should just be able to beat with having just better creatures. I just haven't felt like Infest has been super crazy. But, again, I haven't been playing the super aggressive decks either. So maybe Biting Rain actually just wipes a whole bunch of people out and I'm just not knowing. Throttle's Removal. I like the double dual shot. This is kind of cool. Vessel's kind of dumb. Fiery Temper's good. Dance with the Devils is good. Inner Struggle seems good. Whispers, like, I'm really excited about my red stuff here. I don't know if this is good, like it's a trick, but how tricky is it? Vessel Delirium, Clip Wings, that's, you know, a decent card. Mysteries, whenever a non-token creature you control dies, investigate. Whenever you sacrifice a clue. So we got the mysteries and we've got the ongoing investigation. So now, like, this is like a deck right here. Like, the way I understand it, like, if you have these two cards together, you can put together some really, really screwed up board states. And I've got, you know, like, the other guy to kind of go with it. So now I'm going to be stuck in, like, do I have, like, some sort of Nihiri thing where I can, like, build out my deck and do some stuff with my Fiery Tempers and my white and do, like, this big red-white deck that has a Nihiri in it? Or am I better to try and do like the grindy green-blue deck? So let's kind of get away from all this stuff here, reset these filters, and holy crap. So what is our grindy... Oh, I want to try the green-black deck. So I know I want my mysteries. I know I'm going to have my... well, let's just look through here. Random Skulk guy, he's a 2-drop. I want that. I don't think I want this card. Well, let's see. It's a 0/3 for 2 mana. I might need it just as a 0/3 for 2 mana, but no. If I'm going to be playing green, I'm going to have plenty of 2 mana do-nothing cards. You have the ongoing investigation, so we want to be able to attack. We're going to have Deny Existence. We're going to have Stitch Mangler. We're not going to play the Trail. We're going to have these cards here that just gum up the board. And then on this side, we want the big dumb creature. We might want the Delirium dude. Well, he's a 3/3, so I kind of almost feel like I have to. I don't really care about this Might Beyond thing. That just seems kind of wacky. Tireless Tracker's good. Courier's good. Like, we want to have like some sort of investigate theme going on. This Wolf starts off as a 2/2, gets to be bigger. I'm going to put them in there just for the hell of it. Clip Wings, I don't need, so it can be a sideboard card. Groundskeeper, not too worried about it. And maybe Vessel just as a way to kind of find some of my other stuff. I know I'm supposed to get away from the enchantments as per like the advice of my peeps, but this is kind of a thing that we can do. We've also got this journal. I don't know if this journal is any good. Like, is this the deck, or is this card just way too cute? Like, what is this card doing for me? If I draw it in the beginning of the game, I'm going to have it sit in my hand until I get to 5 mana. 5 mana seems like it's actually a little bit tougher to do than it should be, especially with this, because I didn't get any sort of land ramp spells. All I have is the Vessel to kind of help me out with that. So then I get clues, and I start building up clues. And I'm going to have a whole bunch of clues as per the way my deck naturally works. If I get the ongoing investigation going, if I have the tireless tracker going, if I have the byway couriers going, I'm going to start building up clues. When I sacrifice these clues, what am I actually looking for? I don't have any big bomb blue or green spell that's just going to say, hey, here's where you're going to win. Like, I've got the tireless tracker that I could turn into like some massive thing. I've also got like these 4 or 5 wolves that could be a pretty big deal. The Gone Missing, like, again, like the journal, I don't know what I'm actually going to be sacrificing that I wouldn't be better off just actually drawing cards with. Let's start to look through some of this stuff. Like this 1-drop 2/2 Gargoyle might be a good place to be. Again, if he dies, like if I actually block and trade with something, that gives me a couple things towards my Delirium. Skeleton Key, not super excited about that. Like these shards and these skeleton keys might be just better cards for my white-red deck because they can help me jam through damage with some of my smaller creatures. Shard of Broken Glass, I saw it kind of do things. It's funny, every time I see this card used, I never see anybody mill cards off their own library into their graveyard. They just use it as a +1/+1 or +1/+0 equipment. But you jam it on a 3-power guy and he becomes a 4-power guy and he can start busting his way through. So, kind of a basic glance, this is a deck I see. Do I play the Warp Landscape? Maybe. I don't really think I do. I think I just kind of keep it simple. Play around with these types of things here. Let's group the creatures separately. We got like a weird counter spell. We've got our mysteries and our ongoing investigations so that we can kind of get a bunch of stuff. It would be really cool if we had that green creature that just had really great stats and gave me life every time I sacked a clue. We got a little bit of bounce. with the Just the Wind, and we got the Gone Missing. We got a couple ways to deal with some bigger stuff with the sleep paralysis. So this here seems like a pretty decent little deck here. So we're going to take this, jam it up here, and I'm just going to take this pile and put it over here as one deck. So now I want to see kind of what I think is going to be an aggressive deck here. I don't mind the Survive the Night, I don't mind this guy, don't mind that guy. Although, like, the Ox is kind of a card that sticks out, Silver Strike kind of sticks out. These Emissaries could just be the way to... Especially with these Emissaries, because these Emissaries, like, if I do an attack with, like, a 1 toughness or something smaller, then all of a sudden it is, you know, if he blocks and he has to, like, do that, then I'm getting a 1/1 token, or vice versa. One of my guys die, then at least I'm going to get 3 power in the air. 3 power in the air seems pretty decent. We'll play a Nahiri just because Planeswalker, but also, like, the ability to kind of excel through my deck with my discarding cards and drawing a card. I don't have a lot of madness to really trigger off of this, but I do have the Vampire, I do have the Fiery Temper, so I have some ways to kind of gain a little bit extra advantage off of that. The Exile on the big guys is going to be really important, so if I do run into something really big, Nahiri might be big enough to actually take a hit and then be able to follow it up by being able to exile that card or drop Nahiri to exile something that's been a pain in my butt. Followed up by the 8, I can use it to go and get, like, maybe my Angel or whatever the case may be, the Arsonist, something just a way to pound through. So let's take a look. Dual shots, they might be just what I need to kind of get through things, especially if I combo them with, like, Forge Master. Vampire seems good, Killer's good. This Bandit seems really good, like a 3/2 haste. Could get ahead of the curve a little bit. Turns into a 4/3, which is kind of a pain in the butt. Like, it does have the 4 power to bust through things, but it would be nice if it was like a 4/4. But I could still, you know, potentially be able to, like, push in an Arsonist afterwards, right as a 6/5, which would be pretty badass. Wolf can't wolf if wolf. Temper is good. Dance with Devils is good. This card is surprisingly a pain in the ass. Inner Struggle. This might just be our... Like, the tough part about Inner Struggle is it doesn't get rid of my 2/4s, but my 2/4s might be the cards that I can kind of bang into and do whatever I need to do. Pyrohound, I like him. I want my Arsonist. I want my Angel. I want something like this, maybe. The Shard of Broken Grass. I kind of want this Wicker Wish dude, just because he's a pain in the butt. And this thing here kind of gives me, again, another way to be a pain in the ass. So, let's go over here and just group our creatures separately. What cards do I really need out of this? I don't want this Silver Strike. We kind of talked about how it was awkward already. We're going to talk about our Ox because it's not an aggressive card. We're going to maybe cut out... let's see. Emissary versus... So, I think I can cut 1 Emissary. I want to keep my curve a little bit lower because we want to be a bit more of an aggressive deck. We like these guys here. These are all aggressive cards. Aggression, 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 aggression. Wicker Wish, kind of not as aggressive. So maybe we cut this Witch. Then we take a look through here. Survive the Night might be a good way to bash. I'm going to cut one of these Struggles. I don't think it's as exciting. So we still have lots of cards here, right? Like, we still have a whole bunch of crap going on here. Maybe my 5-drops I'm getting just a little too cute on. Like, maybe I just got to cut the whole flying package and just stick with this guy for my flying package. Maybe this Inner Struggle is just way too much and I can just have to count on this. Dual Shot, I can cut one of these Dual Shots. Like, the 1 toughness, it does happen. And then, is the Shard of Broken Glass enough to push me through? I feel like this is going to get me to 4 power on a lot of things, and 4 power just seems like a great place to be, so I want to hold on to that. Angelic Purge, I'm going to need to bust through something. The Survive the Night, actually, well, again, that's another 4 power thing. The Expose Evil is a decent thing. This thing seems like a decent thing. This cares a lot about spirits, but I do have some flying through this guy. Like, my creatures aren't winning any fights. That's, like, well, they're trading a lot, so that might be a downside to what I got going on here. Like, again, I still like how aggressive these early guys are. Wolf or a werewolf. I've got, let's see, one. Yeah, I'm just going to get rid of the Howlpack Wolf because it can't block. Or it can't block, it can still attack. The dog is decent. What's not good here is... So we're getting down to our last minutes here. I want to keep these guys. Maybe my Harvest Hand is just what's got to go. I still have a lot of humans. I still have this Topplgeist. I like what he does. I feel like I'm way more aggressive with this deck, which is where I really want to be. Pyrehound just always feels like a strong card. I don't know if I'm just a little bit maybe too in love with it. Or maybe it's this guy that I'm a little bit too in love with. But I feel like I need to have something big and stupid on my top end to kind of break through. I know the Flamebait Angel is obviously... It's a 4/4 flyer. And if I do an attack, like any blocking that they do is going to just add up to more damage to them. So I don't know. It reminds me of almost like I can't remember what the hell that card was called, but the guy that was like a 4-mana haste that did damage, like all your creatures did an extra point of damage. Like I feel like in this deck here, it'll just be an all-out attack, and I'm going to get like a bunch of damage out of my guys, just singles, because he's going to have to block. So with this all in mind, I keep coming back to Survive the Night. I'm going to pop it. And then here with my land, it would just be like a white-red. So this is me running out of time. I kind of narrowed myself down to 2 decks here. So this was one of the decks here. This is kind of like the Nahiri with red bomb and aggressive white cards as like one of the decks. Then we had kind of a blue-green, try to take advantage of the fact that I've got, you know, the multiple enchantment, ongoing investigation, whatever the heck that other one was called. Mysteries. So what did we not do? We didn't do like a green-red with the Duskwatch Recruiter. Do I have enough stuff here to actually get the whole engine going, right? Because this engine is based on creatures dealing combat damage to a player, and then non-token creatures die. So I have creatures that are probably going to die. Like these guys are going to die. I've got some things to kind of get the ball rolling. Am I busting through anything? Like I've got these scavengers. Like these are just stall up the board type things. I get to go to a 4/5. I get a 3/5. So I got like some big stuff towards the end, but like I'm really counting on like the Soul Swallower to do work. I'm counting on the Tireless Tracker to win the game. I don't have a ton of things to actually win the game with this deck, right? Like I can build out an army. This Quilled Wolf is a thing that can win the game. But yeah, like this is just gonna jank up the board a little bit, and what I'm really counting on is just trying to get some clues. So like this is a case where, you know, like we were talking about that journal, like maybe I need the journal, right? Like do I need the journal to get the mysteries going to really go wide on people? Like do I have enough in here to actually generate the damage I need to do? Because I really don't feel like it. I don't feel like I've got the flyers. I've got, you know, the one Silent Observer to kind of ping away at the air to start building up humans. Well, to build up clues that I can turn into humans, but I don't have a lot of things to jam through damage with, right? The investigation, I can gain some life. I can exile the creatures from a graveyard. I don't know. This deck feels like it's got like the 2 cards that I want, but I don't think it's got the body to really support it. Again, let me know in the comments, folks. Let me know if I'm talking any sense. If I'm looking at a deck that I want to run with, I feel a little bit more comfortable with my white-red deck. Even to the point where it's like, this deck here, I felt like I was jamming cards into to make it work. This card here, I felt like I had to cut cards out of to make work. And that's... I don't know, it's not a fleshed out thought, but it's just the case that if I have to shrink it down a little bit more, like maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing. There could be a white or a green-white deck in here. I've got these Couriers that are kind of lower on the curve. I've got the Duskwatch Recruiter again lower on the curve. I got the Quilled Wolf lower on the curve. I've got the tireless tracker, so maybe there's something a little bit there that could be paired with the white or paired with the red a little bit better. Like I know I see, oh look, it's a werewolf, and then I got like all these well, not all these werewolf cards, but I got some werewolf cards on this side. Again, I don't have anything that really abuses that. I do have a game trail. That's kind of cool. I like the game trail. Fixing my mana a little bit better is always nice. But is that really a thing? This deck here, I cut out all of my flying stuff, but at 5 mana, like, do I want to be playing a 5 mana game? Do I want to try and play like the early game and try and get on top of my opponent? Or am I missing a card that's going to help me get on top of my opponent? Is like this 1-drop gargoyle a better way to get on top of my opponent? Turning into the 4/2 guy later on in the game. I don't think I'm really fighting to have something to turn on later in the game. And again, with my Nahiri, I feel like this angel might be something strong enough to get later in the game. I feel like the 5/4 arsonist might be something strong enough to get later in the game. Even the Geist, if I've got another spirit or something going on, might be strong enough. It could be funny. Like, it could be the case where it's like I search my library for my artifact or creature card, and I get a Topplegeist to tap something down. And then I get to cast it out again next turn to tap it down a second time. Maybe that's my trick, like there's a few different ways to kind of go about this whole process. Again, I like this harvest hand because it's going to give my smaller creatures the ability to kind of get that one step bigger, because this deck here, what we talked about, with the 4 toughness, this deck is suffering from the we can't get to 4 toughness. We've got the Gossip Mongers, but this is a deck that I would just love to have had. I think it was Nahiri's Machinations or something is the enchantment where you can make an attacking creature indestructible and then you can deal damage to creatures. Like it's funny because like there's these enchantments that are just such a pain in the butt, and that's what I like about this deck is that well, actually, that's what I don't like about this deck is that it doesn't have those enchantments that are a pain in the butt. Like that's what I like about the white-red aggressive deck is that you do have some of these tools. So I feel like this is a much better pool that I've been dealt, for sure. I have a tough time getting away from like wanting to play Tireless Tracker. Like, I don't know, like should I be putting together a green-red list to see what that looks like, or a green-white list? I like my early white stuff. I like my white cards. My white cards feel like they're in a really, really cool spot. I like my red cards. That's why I'm on this deck, but geez, like to cut a Dustwatch, to not play Dustwatch Recruiter and not play Tireless Tracker, like these cards that just give me so many benefits for like plain lands, like that seems really good. Mysteries, maybe mysteries are just like if I have like this aggressive deck, my stuff's dying, I get my mysteries, I get to build out more creatures. That seems pretty good. I can jam my wolf in. So I don't want to be looking at a Naya deck because I'm not wanting to be on drugs, and that seems like a thing that a person on drugs would want to do. But where does my green pair better? Does my green pair better with my red, or does it pair better with my white? When I'm looking at this deck, if I go sort by color, I'm playing kind of an even mix. I'm looking at this here and I'm saying, well, like I can play these 7 green cards, but I don't really have anything else to back it up with. So if I do bring them in, then I'm looking at playing some more red cards in there. So am I looking at like the Whispers? Like this Whispers card actually might just be, a really strong thing to be playing in this deck to bust through something. I always like having Whispers in the deck, but I'm trying to get away from it because I think it's a card that I overvalue. Yeah. So, lots of stuff to chew through. Hopefully we can get a little bit more information. I'm going to build the deck as the red-white deck that we've got in front of us here. My lands, the Warp Landscape, I don't think I have to worry too much about my mana base. Like I do have a couple double reds in my Angel and my Fiery Temper, but it's really nice that everything is kind of single red type cards, or single color cards, so I'm not going to get chewed up too much on that. If I am looking at things, I really want to get my white cards going early on. I feel like having my early white might be better, so if I had to kind of step one way, I might push it into a 9-8. The other thing I could do is I could just go to a 16 land card, 16 land deck, right? Like, we are keeping our curve relatively low. We could, just say, well, fuck it, let's bring in the Witch, or maybe it's even the Skeleton Key, because the Skeleton Key can be used with my Vampire for Madness, or with my Fiery Temper. It also gives the Skulk. I don't have very many small creatures that are really going to benefit from this, though. Like, that's the one thing about Skulk, is that I am going with, like, kind of power heavy stuff. So I can avoid dealing with his big stuff, but all of his, like, janky mid-range stuff I'm going to still trip up on. It's just nice that when this does damage, the draw discard filters through my deck a little bit better. Still, we'll step away from that. Yeah, we'll run with this. We will add one more card back into it. We've got 16 creatures, which is pretty good. Don't want the Ox. Survive the Night was my last cut. Maybe I just go back to my Witch. Nah, let's do a Wicker Witch. Let's just get some more Beat Sticks dudes in there. And we'll just do a good old-fashioned 8-8 split. Hopefully that makes some good sense. So the fine folks think that I should be a little bit more red heavy. I am a little bit more red heavy in the deck, but what turns do I want to be doing these things on? I want to be just hitting my curve. So we'll save the deck, and I've got a podcast to record here, folks. So we will record a little bit later on the first match with this deck. But this is where I landed. Again, feed me some feedback. Check me out on the A-Team podcast. We're on Mana Deprived. We come out every week. Thursdays when we're doing our release. We talk about all kinds of magical stuff. Whatever the case may be. We're Canadian guys. We do the Canadian thing. If you're watching this video, chances are you already listened to the show. But if you don't, if you stumbled onto this, please check out the show. We have a lot of fun. We talk a little bit more about competitive stuff. I'm going to talk about a dredge deck I was playing at a 1.5K that we had in town. I managed to top 8 it. So really, really fun story. Really exciting times there. Otherwise, check on to the next video. We're going to have another video to follow this one up. And seeing how the deck plays out, we're going to play around with it a little bit. We might actually do a video on the red-white deck and then maybe flip ourselves over to the blue-green deck and do a video on that and just kind of see how things played out, how things went, which deck I felt a little bit better with. Because pretty sure with these leagues, I can actually just bounce my deck back and forth as I wish. So really appreciate it. If you hit the subscribe thing, if we get a whole bunch of people to do that, I might be able to make this A-Team Jeremy thing a reality one day, which would be pretty badass to find videos and stuff. But I'm going to keep doing these video things at least once a week, twice a week, whatever I can do. So I really appreciate your feedback. Please, anything you can do to help me out through this, I really appreciate. You guys are awesome. You guys are just absolutely amazing. Patrick, I don't expect a whole essay on this one, but please, I understand where you're coming with, and like it was nothing short of amazing. So I don't know if you ever actually gave me your address, but I really want your address because I want to send you one of our pretty badass A-Team toques here. It's got a little Jobin on the back, and yeah, just a little badass toque for the love to you, man. All right, check out the next video.